All right. Well, welcome to April's Mazévo Connect. My name's Brian Peck, and I'll be the host here today of our Mazévo Connect for April. If this is your first Mazévo Connect, this is something we do every month. We do it on a different topic every month, and it's just a way to kind of bring everybody together, share some knowledge and experience. Today, it'll be the Mazévo staff that's presenting, but in past Mazévo Connects, we've also had Mazévo customers share their experience as well, and usually share some things that they're doing with the software that can help everybody. So today our plan is we're going to have presenters are going to be the staff here. So let me introduce everybody. We've got Wendy Newland, who's one of our trainers here doing some of the presenting. I know a lot of you know her. I've also got Joe Finley doing some presenting as well. Claire DeGroat, who helps me on the sales team, and then Dean Evans, our CEO. So they're going to be the ones kind of mainly running the show here today. We do have everybody muted on the call, so if you have questions as you're going through, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll be keeping an eye on those. Usually at the end, too, we save a few minutes for Q&A, and so you can also unmute yourself then if you have questions and things like that, and sometimes that's just easier to do. So we'll do it that way there. And yeah, so the topic today is going to be on approval workflows in Mazévo. And that's something that I know some of you are using, but a lot of people, I think, are still kind of curious about it. It's one of those things that, that kind of comes up, but sometimes people have a lot of questions and things like that as far as how it works. So I wanted to just kind of discuss some advantages and who they're for and things like that before we jump into our presentation. So let me just kind of bring something up here. Okay. So who's Mazévo approval workflows for? So we designed the approvals process for any organization that has a significant number of events that require a review and approval by more than one person. So if most of the events that you do are, there's just a single person that needs to go in and review those and approve them, the way that Mazévo is designed to work, you know, just a standard approval, one person looks at it, that works fine. It's when there's going to be multiple people involved in that process. Examples might be like you need a service provider to review the event and also weigh in and say, you know, can they do it or not? Or a building manager, or maybe the police or campus safety needs to look at it, risk management. Those are some common examples where, you know, before you can approve an event, other people need to oversee it. And a lot of times the way that that's handled is it would be just done like through an email, right? You would send over an email to somebody and say, hey, we've got this event that's trying to be planned, and, you know, can you look at it and let us know? And that works fine if you don't have too many of those. But if you have a pretty busy operation where you've got a lot of events going on, that can quickly become somewhat overwhelming because you've just got a lot of events that are happening. And it's like, how do you keep up with all of those? So we designed the approval workflow process to provide a few things for you when you have a significant number of events like that. It's just to ensure nothing falls through the cracks. You don't forget anything. It's just always going to be there because the approvals for that process can be triggered automatically. So there's some automation there, which creates less work for you. You're not having to try and remember things and keep up with all of this. It also, for the people who are requesting events with you, it helps them because it can actually speed up the approval process, right? You're not trying to remember to follow up on stuff and, hey, did this person approve this event yet? I don't know. I need to go look, you know, that kind of thing. So it's definitely helpful there. It also provides some transparency. So if you're in an office where there's more than one of you working on events, you can all see, you can all look and see, has this event been fully approved? Which approvals are we waiting on? That kind of thing. Whereas if it's just in an email inbox somewhere, it's not very transparent. So anyways, that's what we're going to do. So we thought that the easiest way to kind of talk about this is first to kind of show you how the approval process works with a, kind of a real live example. And so if you're on the Zoom here looking at all of our pictures, you'll notice like, we've got Officer Wendy at campus safety. We've got Joe as an AV approver, Dean's an event planner. Those are the different roles that they're going to be playing here. And I've got a slide I'm going to bring up that kind of shows you the way we're going to do this. So we're going to show you the life cycle of an event with approvals here. And so it's going to start out with Claire. She's going to be playing the role of a requester, and she's going to have a request that's in the system. You'll see it from her point of view, what that looks like. And then when that request is entered, Dean's going to take over as the event planner, and he'll show you what he does with that request that requires multiple approvals that way. And then after that, we'll see what it looks like from the point of view of an approver. That's Wendy and Joe. They're going to show you as people who are approving different aspects of the event, what they do. Then when they're done with that, it's going to go back to Dean. He'll show you how he monitors all of that and what's going on. And then we'll wrap up with Claire and show you the finished request and what that looks like there. So with that said, that's going to be kind of where we're going through things here. And anyways, I'm going to stop sharing at this point, and we'll just get on with it. The other thing too is once we go through the life cycle here, Dean will kind of go into a deeper dive on how some of this is configured and just some of the other things that might happen with the approval process as you go through it. So that's enough of me kind of talking about that. I'm going to stop sharing, and Claire is going to take it away as our requester.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Now, keep in mind, I'm not going to put the request in and show you that piece of it. You guys know how that works. I'm just going to go right here to my events. And this is going to give me a list of all my events that I've put into the system. So as you can see, I've got some booked, I've got some pending. I'm waiting on these pending ones for someone to review it on the back end. And that's what Dean's going to show you. But this is just my list showing me what's been approved and what I'm still waiting on. So I'm going to stop sharing and let Dean go in there and bring up that back end of it.
All right, so everybody's seeing my screen now. So I'm kind of in here and as an event planner, global administrator, and I'm going to go into data glances, which is where you really start this process for the approval and request stuff. So we're going to go into data glance, and I've got this all tuned up here with these different buckets of things here. So just from a high level, each event will appear on this screen one time, and it's grouped by its overall approval status. When I say approvals, that's this extra workflow that's kind of off on the side. So the one we want to start working with here is these two down here are waiting for me to review them and release the approvals to the approvers, Wendy and Joe. So the one we're going to start with is this basket weavers, and I'm going to go ahead and click on it and just open it up, and you'll see that it's in a request status. We're going to talk a little bit more about status in a few minutes, but this is waiting for me to approve or deny it. Now, just as a note, these two big buttons up here are going to change the status of the bookings. What we really want to do is come over here to this approval tab, and you can see there's two approvals here, and they're waiting for review. Well, it's waiting on me, the event planner, to look at this event and say, yeah, we can do this. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it, but we still need to get AV and campus safety approval. If I looked at this event and said, no way, this isn't happening, I can deny the event right here, and then the AV and campus safety folks won't even see this event come up on their queue. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to start this whole process by activating all of the approvals. And I just click that button and it's going to go into what we call a pending state. So at this moment, when I click that button, Wendy got an email and Joe got an email saying, hey, there's something that needs your approval. Now, if they sit on that and don't do anything tonight at 2 in the morning, we're going to send them an email saying, hey, you have an approval that you need to approve or deny. So we're going to kind of keep coming back, and this is the one we're going to play with through this whole thing. But now I'm back at day at a glance, and if I just notice I'm in this waiting for review, if I refresh my screen here, it's going to come back, and now all of a sudden my basket weavers, it's in this pending bucket. So that bucket is, we're waiting on people to do their approvals. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to turn things over to Joe. He's our AV specialist, and he's going to go in and look at his approvals and kind of flip the status on some of those. And then we're going to go to Wendy next. So I'm going to stop sharing, and we're going to show you what it looks like from an approver's point of view. So.
All right, everyone, I'm Joe. I'm the AV approver. So I have that. What I wanted to show first is I did get that email that Dean just talked about for the annual Basket Weavers Conference. So I do get an email that says, oh, I need to go look and it needs your approval. So that's what I am. I am just an approver of the AV. I have no other administrative task. I can't do settings. I can't do other edits and all, but I do have the ability to make other requests on campus, and that's what that menu is for. Sorry, I didn't mean to click there. But my approvals is where I'm going because I received that email. So in my approvals,
Are you ready
I now
for the pizza of life? Bring friends down to Pepperoni Hug Spot.
I'm sorry, was that a question for me or some? Okay, sorry. And so now then I look at my approval bucket, which has all of my, or my inbox, whichever way you want to call it, and it shows all of my events that I have to do, which is to review and give my approval. Okay. So that Basket Weavers is here. So I'm going to click on that one, and I have my details about the event. It's like, oh, it's on the 28th, 29th, and 30th. I can look at my resources because that's what I'm focused on. I'm looking at the audio visual, the laptop on this first booking for the 28th, microphone, laptop, microphone, and laptop and microphone. So all 3 days. I see no problem with this event from the audio visual perspective, and that's where my focus needs to be. So I'm going to, here as my AV approver, it needs approval, I'm going to approve this one. So by approving this event, it's doing a confirmation, and I say yes. Now then that one drops out of my inbox, and I now have my others that I have in here. The other one that we're looking at today is this new student orientation. And I have that one in here, same kind of concept. And it's got, oh, a piano. Yeah, the piano is all fine. I'm okay with doing that one. So I'm going to approve that one as well. And then the final one here is the women's tennis. So it's in my inbox here and it needs approval. And I'm going over here to look at this one. And it's on the 29th. I look at its resources and it's like, oh, wait, they're looking for the portable projector. I can make that portable projector and screen. And, you know, that piece of equipment is in maintenance. I've got to get a new one replacement. So I can't approve this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to deny this one. And it says, are you sure you want to deny it? And I say yes. And it gives me a place to put my notes in. So I've got my notes here that that unit is out of order. It will be available in May. A replacement has been ordered. So I'm putting that information in as I deny this event. This is the women's tennis for that day. So now then my inbox is clean of those ones that we're using for our example today. Here's still just another one. So my job is now done with regards to those 3 that we're doing the examples for today. So next step would be this other approver. So that would be Wendy. So I'm going to stop sharing
Thanks,
and
Joe.
let Wendy go.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So I am campus safety, and I am responsible for approving anything that has an attendance over 75 people. So I also got the emails. So now I'm going to my approvals. Now notice that Joe, the AV person, denied the women's tennis event. So it doesn't even show up in my queue, even though it was over 75 people. He denied it. There's no reason for me to even see it. But he did approve the annual Basket Weavers Conference and the new student orientation. So I'm going to drill into this event. Campus safety approval looks fine. It's in the student center. I've got enough officers staffed that day. So I will approve my piece. And then I'll look at the new student orientation. Fine, everything looks good. I am going to approve this. South Lawn shouldn't be a problem. 2 days. Again, I have enough officers staffed. So I will approve my piece. And now I will turn it back over to the event planner, Dean.
All right, so let's go see what it looks like for all of this stuff here. So we're going to jump back into data glance here in the request screen and take a look here. So now these buckets have kind of changed a little bit. So again, remember our basket weaver started down here and waiting for a review. Then I released it and it went to pending. And then on the basket weavers, both of those approvals were approved. So everything on the basket weaver event is approved. So we move it to this approved thing, bucket up here. So the approved bucket is every event that has all of the approvals approved. The denied, these are events that have 1 or more approvals that are denied. So again, an event is only going to show in this list 1 time because it's the overall status of the approvals that we're looking at. A couple of the other buckets that we want to look at are right here, this no approval needed. Now we've had some confusion and we're thinking about changing these groupings here. No approval needed basically is there are no secondary approvals on that event, but it's still in a request status, meaning I need to change that status to confirmed. It just doesn't need anybody else to kind of get their fingers in it. So we'll kind of take a look at some of these. But again, kind of role playing here. We're going to look at this basket weaver in a moment. But what I want to do is I'm going to tease you with one other thing here in data glance is this is approvals screen. So when I go into this now, again, that first one, when I'm looking at requests, it's showing me 1 row per event. Now, in this case, it's showing me 1 row for each approval on each event. Okay, so if we look here, these are all the things that Joe saw in his queue. And if we look over here, this one's still pending. He hasn't approved that. That's the one he left behind. He approved the new students. He denied the tennis. And then down here, the other one we're playing with today is he approved the basket weavers. Now, if we go into this bucket, here's Wendy's approvals, and she's approved student orientation. She never saw women's tennis, so it's still kind of in pending status. We're going to go deeper into that here in a minute, but she did approve the basket weavers. But you can kind of get an idea of the approvals here. So the reason we put this screen in here is maybe Joe's on vacation and Joe's not paying attention to the secondary approvals. And so this is a screen that I, as an event planner, can use to see any kind of bottlenecks. Where are my approvals, right? And who's not doing their job, right? So this is your way to get in and see by the approver who's doing that, okay? So what we're going to do is, even from right here, we're going to jump right into this basket weavers. We know, because we saw them approve it, that everything was approved. And so when you come in from that screen, you're seeing, okay, here's the approved. Let me go back over here to the bookings. So everything's still in a request status. Now that these other people have approved my event, now I, as the event planner, can say, all right, I'm going to go ahead and approve this for Claire. And it's going to ask me what the status is. And I'm going to say it's confirmed. It's all ready to go. And now my big buttons go away. I've changed my status to confirmed. And now if Claire looked in her queue, she now sees it as booked. So it was pending, and now it looks to her like the whole thing's booked and ready to go. So I would send her an email at this point saying, Claire, here's your confirmation and everything's ready to go. So, you know, I won't send it, but that's what you would normally do at that point. So anyway, that's kind of where we're going to stop right there. Now we're going to kind of dig a little bit deeper and, well, how do you even get these approvals configured? And then what are some of the nuances back in the day at a glance? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go over to the main menu, and I'm going to go to settings, and we're going to show you how some of this is configured. So right here is approvals, and I'll open this up, and we're going to see all of these different approvals that we have in the system. So the ones we want to kind of concentrate on are these first two. So the approval, the AV, when you create this, you give it a name, and you can put some notes in here. It's like, why are you doing this? And then you say, who are the approvers that are going to approve the AV? So the reason I want to show you this is you can have more than one approver tied to an approval. So in this case, Joe, myself, Claire, which is kind of odd. I mean, this is just our demo database, but these are the people that can approve this. So Joe went in first and saw the AV approvals. And as soon as he approved it, if John logged in or Susan logged in or I logged in, I wouldn't see them, because the first approver to either approve or deny it takes it off the plate for the other approvers in that, for the AV folks. So it's pretty dynamic. So that way, if Joe was out on vacation, well, these other people would still see it in the queue, in their queue, and be able to approve or deny it. Okay, so it's kind of backup right there. So, but the secret to getting this approval to automatically be created is this trigger. So your triggers for approvals are this list right here. You can always have an approval go on there. You can have a location. So that's a room or a room tag service. Well, in this case, we want anything in AV. You've got event types, attendance, and that's what Wendy's has got for the campus safety, and organization types. So any one of those could be the trigger to automatically throw this approval on an event and start the process. So let's go look at campus safety, because that's based on attendance. The trigger is attendance, and anything greater than 75 should trigger this approval. And then again, here's all of the people that are going to have the capability to approve those campus safety events. Just to kind of show you some other ones here. So catering, we see this a lot. So anything that's in the catering service provider can have its own trigger, different list of approvers. You can do location based. So if I want to say anything in the Jacobs building needs to be approved, here's the approvers. The location is the Jacobs building. So again, any booking on an event in the Jacobs building would trigger this approval. So you can see it's pretty easy to create these and get those in there. So one important thing here is this checkbox at the top. By checking this, what that does is that gives me that activate all button, and I'll go show you where that was again. But that's the button that I hit that sent out the approvals to everybody and sent those emails. That's what that checkbox does. It says, hey, as event planners, we're going to let you look at the event first and then send out the approvals. If you uncheck this, as soon as the event's created, the approvals are in the pending state. And Joe, if he went into his approvals, he would see the approvals automatically. Wendy would see them. Anybody that's on all of these approvals would automatically be distributed. The difference there is that email that goes out only goes out nightly. Whereas if you're in this review process, it goes out when you release them. So just kind of keep that in mind. So that's the way you set up approvals, is right here. Just touching on security. If you were to create an approver, the role that you want to give them, you don't have to give them anything, but the one important role that you would come over here and do is this oversight. So you would give them that role right there. And that's what lets them get into the system and see their approvals. Okay. So that gives them that My Approvals category. All right. So lots of stuff. Let's go back to the beginning here and go to Day at a Glance again. And let's talk about some of these other buckets. So again, the buckets that you see here approved. So that means all of the approvals tied to the weekly business meeting have been approved. And that could be one or more. Okay. Denied. As soon as one of the approvals on an event is denied, it gets put into this bucket. Now, let's take a look at this walk in the park. If I click on that and go in there and look at it, we can see I've got 4 approvals. So I'm going to click on that and we see, oh, wait a minute, 2 of them are approved. Campus Safety said no way. So I could, and she didn't put any notes in here, which, oh, well. So we can pick up the phone and call Wendy and say, what's the deal here? But we noticed that AV still pending. They never even got to see this because Campus Safety said deny it. So Campus Safety is probably not one that you want to do this with, but let's say that was catering, just kind of role play for a minute. If this was catering and catering said deny it, well, I might call the customer up and say, you can't get your catering. Oh, well, that's okay. I still want to have my event. So the way you would override this denial is you would come in here and say, just disregard it. So you're going to manually change the status, overriding what Officer Wendy said. And that's why this is a bad example of overriding the safety, folks. You could disregard it, and now it'll get thrown back into the pending queue, and Joe will now see that approval for AV. But for whatever reason, maybe I called Officer Wendy and she said, oh, you know, it'll be okay. Go ahead and let them do it. So you can manually change the status of these as you're going through them. So if we come back to the Day at a Glance, let me refresh that. And now all of a sudden that denied one's not going to be there. And it should be waiting down here and pending the walk in the park because now it's in Joe's plate. So these buckets, again, automatically put in there for you. The one you really want to start, keeping your eye on is the waiting for review, because that means you need to go in and release these things. So let's go in and one more time on this debate practice and see, kind of go back through those steps. So what I did was I came to approvals, and there's that activate all button. So that says, put these out on the approver's plate. That's what that is. Okay. If I want to disregard it, you can say, throw these all in the trash. They didn't want, they requested catering. We couldn't give it to them. And so we're going to take catering off the event. Maybe you want to disregard it and kind of get rid of it that way. So to manually add an approval, you just click that button. And now you'll see the manual. These are manual approvals that are triggered that you could put on there. So that's how you would add a manual one. So again, to start the whole process, you're simply going to click activate all. The email goes out and it's now in their queue. Okay. So if I come back here and refresh, now there should be nothing left in waiting for review because everything's in all of these other queues. Okay. Now let's go back one more time and look at the approval process here. So this flips everything upside down and groups it by the approvals that are on each event. And again, you can look here, new orientation has an AV approval, but it also has a campus safety approval. So events will show one time for each type of approval that they have over here. So one other important thing that I want to talk about here is this will trip you up a couple of times because it's a painful lesson to learn. But approvals are all, this whole process is triggered by the status of the bookings, okay? And the date of the bookings. So if an event occurred yesterday, it's not going to show on this screen at all, regardless of whether it was approved, denied, pending. We just say, well, it was yesterday. Why do you care to see it? We just remove the event completely if all of the bookings were in the past. So if you had an event that had a booking yesterday and tomorrow, it would still be here, even though there's a booking in the past. Okay. So again, we're really kind of focused on the things going forward. And so we're only showing you that here on this screen, as well as the request screen. This screen is the same thing. It's really based on the status and the dates of the bookings. Okay. So let's talk a little about this status. And this throws people a little bit. So for the folks that came from EMS, this is the status, that you as an event planner use, day in and day out. And that's that triggers the color in the event book and things like that. But when Claire logged in as the requester, Claire only saw booked and pending. So how did that happen? So the way we designed this, I'm going over to settings and into statuses. What we did is, after experiencing this in years and years with EMS, and this is actually a really short list of statuses, but we've seen people with 20 and 30 statuses, because that's what you would need to do in EMS to manage a workflow process. You need to kind of move it from one status to the next and move it through there. So with our approval process that we put into Mazévo, you don't necessarily need that. But we just felt it kind of awkward. Well, how does the requester know what all of these 20 different statuses really mean? So we basically translate your internal status to a status that they may be able to understand. So here's the request status. That's what I see as an event planner. Claire sees the word pending. And you can actually have more than one of your statuses tied to pending. And we have that, okay? And then booked, that means it's, for all intents and purposes, it's ready to go for them. Right now, tentative might mean something else, but to the requester, do they really know what tentative means, right? You might be holding space in other places and things like that. So canceled, it was canceled by the requester, whereas denied was canceled by the event planner. So we can we separate those. But really, those are the statuses, these behaviors, those are the things the requester sees, and you see these statuses over here. So hopefully that kind of helps explain this. So really, the whole process, all of the secondary approval is based on bookings in these two statuses. If there's nothing in those two statuses, overlap to request, the whole approval process doesn't work. Okay, it's because, because if you denied it, you don't need to see them. If you canceled it, you don't need to see them. If you've already confirmed it, you don't need to see them, because you wouldn't flip it to confirmed unless it was all ready to go. So that's kind of a lesson in how that all works. So I think I got through everything I wanted to get through. So we can open it up for questions.
Sure. Yeah,
You're
we
ready?
got several questions that have rolled in.
Okay.
So before we do that, I did want to mention that in case you haven't been to a Mazévo Connect or been to all of them, not many of you have, we did a Mazévo Connect on this about a year ago with the help of Kathy Smith and Dorian from University of Missouri, St. Louis. Kathy's actually on the call today. Kathy helped us create the idea for the approval process. She's with a large church down in Dallas. And anyways, they did a Mazévo Connect about a year ago or so on how they use approvals in their operation. So if you want to hear some real world use cases for approvals, check out that Mazévo Connect. I'll put a link to, we wrote a blog article and a link to the video, the whole recording out there. I'll put a link to that, and you can check that out. So anyways, I just wanted to put a plug in there for that. And yeah, so let's look at some of these questions here. Let's see. The first one was just I think a clarification from Katie. She's asking if each of the resources, I think you're asking, Katie, if they were manually requested or added by the requester. Yes. So any of the resources that you saw when like Joe was doing the AV approval and things like that, those were put in there by the requester. Now, if the event planner came in and added something else to that, right, the approver is going to see that too. So you can always do it that way. But yeah, those were, in our case, those were added by the requester there. Let's see. So Carrie's asking, how does I think she's essentially asking here, can the approver pick and choose what they want to request on something? So like, do you want to speak to that, Dean?
What they want to approve.
What they
Yeah.
want to approve.
Yeah.
No, the way we've designed the whole approval process, it's more at the event level, not necessarily at the booking level or at the resource level. I think it would be confusing if you went in and said, well, no, I'm going to deny the projector, but I'm going to let you have the screen, right? But I mean, we're open for feedback. I mean, if you've got an example, we'd love to hear it, why you would want to be able to approve that. It just, how does that translate into kind of our simplistic, how do you keep it simple for the requester? And then how do you configure it and things like that? So we've kind of taken this, try to make it easy to use, and configure and set up. But Carrie, did that get close to what you were looking for?
And Dean, you might want to show the notes that I put in on that one as well.
Okay.
Where they show up, because that might help, because the notes could be very detailed too. It's just this one or that one.
So that's
it was
one
the women. Yes,
yeah.
that one.
Yeah. So if I come in here and denied, you can see the note right there, but I can literally click on that and see here's the information that Joe put in as to why they denied it. So
yeah, and if it was for only one booking or something like that, I could put that detail in my note, and then Dean, as the event approver, could make the decision on what to do from that point.
Yep. Brian, I'll let you read the next question.
Yeah, and well, the next one's related to that. It's Richard was kind of asking the same thing. Can individual resources be approved rather than as a batch within the whole thing? So yeah, it's at the event level itself. So it's like I'm approving this AV for the event essentially. And then Carrie's asking about, can you add notes to a specific resource instead of the way Joe did it, which is to add it to the entire approval itself and all the resources? Can you add it to an individual item? And the answer there is no. It's still just for this approval. These are my notes for it. So they can get as detailed as they want in that note and say, I'm okay with this thing, but not that thing. And here's why and all of that stuff. But it's not, none of that gets attached to individual resources that way.
So Brian, I also read that, which might be something we want to double check, is when I approve the AV, I get just the approval button and it says, are you sure you want to approve it? And I say, yes. I did not have a place to put notes in with my approval. I only had place to put notes in with my denial.
Sure.
That is that right, Dean?
Yeah, we didn't we figured if you're going to approve it, you're going to write a thesis on why you approved it. So we
Exactly.
just assumed, but I mean, we're open to putting the note in there for approvals. If somebody has, wanted something like that, it wouldn't be that hard
Right.
to put in. So,
Right, because you as the event planner on that one that's pending there, the campus safety, anytime you change it, you can actually add notes regardless of what status you put in. So the
correct.
event planner always can, but the approver doesn't currently.
Yeah. This next one here, let's see. So Carrie's asking about, like, she's made some approvals, but then she made a change later and it didn't requeue the approval properly. She's asking if we'd be open to making it a default to clear the sub approvals if the user is the same for both steps. So I'm not fully sure I follow what you're talking about there, Carrie. So if you want to mute yourself and explain it or whatever, but we're open to feedback for sure. So let's see, I'm just working my way down the list. Let's see, can we configure approval triggers, or is there the list shown the only option? So those list of triggers that right here, yeah. Those are the only options. We're open if you've got other ideas on what you'd need to see in there. But those are what we have. So let's see. And if catering declines the request, does the event planner need to delete that service off the event?
Well, if the event planner is going to let the event continue and approve the overall event, then yes, you'd want to delete the catering on there. The denial of the approval does not touch the resources. It just changes that approval record from pending to denied. All of the other stuff is there. But the way we designed this is, if catering said, oh, I'm going to deny it, and everybody else approved theirs, campus safety and AV and everything, yes, you'd want to say disregard the catering and delete the catering off of the event. And then you can approve it, meaning change the status to confirmed. So.
Yeah. Edwin's wanting to know if there's an accidental approval undo.
Yes, there is an undo option there, but it's only good, and you can undo your approval unless the overall event has been changed to confirmed or canceled. Okay, so let me go in here. I'm in there as an approval, but what you can do is say filter and see, well, I want to see the ones that were approved or the ones that were denied. And you can see them here. And yes, you can go back in and change your approval. So I want to change it. And you can say, do you still need this? So you can kind of change the approval state, if you will, once you do that. So yeah, you have the ability. But if the event planner said, oh, Edwin approved it, so we're going to approve the entire event, then it's a little late to kind of go back in and go, oh, wait. So that's probably a phone call or an email to the overall event planner saying, whoops, we made a mistake there. So.
All right. This next question that Carrie's asking gets into inventory control a little bit. She's wanting to know, what if somebody wants 35 tables, but you only have 30? Would the approver decline it and say we can only provide 30, and the event planner has to go back in and switch the number? Do you want to speak to our inventory and
Yeah, sure. Inventory. Again, as you go in here, I don't have an example of that, Carrie, but let me kind of just see if I can get you close here. Let's go down to the debate practice. That doesn't have any. Let me go to walk in the park here, because I've got some resources on here, but none of them are overbooked. So what would happen is if you were to check your inventory here, it would tell you whether you had anything overbooked, and there'd actually be a symbol on here that would tell you you have resources that are overcommitted. So, you know, you might look at that prior to releasing those approvals. Okay. These have already been released. So, but if you have inventory problems, you would see them here when you open that event up, and you might want to deal with those and go, well, what are we going to do? I don't have enough tables. Do I want to change the quantity and then release them? So it's kind of a process that could kind of go either way, but the approver is not changing the quantities. It's the event planner that's changing the quantities. Again, I mean, in our role playing here, Wendy's the campus safety officer. Would you want Wendy to be changing anything on your event? Well, probably not. So again, we kind of look at the AV, all of these approvers, kind of in that same thing. We're not letting them change the event, just approve or deny. So hopefully that answers your question on that.
Yeah.
So.
One thing I would add to that is that when the requester puts in their request for 35 tables, they will get a message that says you didn't get all of the equipment you wanted. Now, they don't have to do anything with that. The request still goes in saying they really want 35 tables, but we let the requester know up front, like, you might not get everything that you want. And if the requester wants to, they can drill in and they can see, hey, there's an issue with your tables on here. And they can say, oh yeah, okay, I'm fine. I'll take the 30 or whatever. If they want to do that, we think that a lot of requesters aren't even, you know, sometimes they don't even read the messages, right, that show up there. So it's fine. The event planner will see that too. And then just like Dean said, can decide, do I want to release the approvals to that? Do I want to adjust something? You know, what do they want to do? So, all right. Yeah, and this next one's from Carrie. It's along the same lines of, you know, can the requester or the approver pick and choose which items they want to request? So, yeah, no, you can't do that. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Carrie, we'll have to troubleshoot with you what you're running into there, because it doesn't sound like it's working correctly there. It should re-queue up the approvals. So we can reach out to you afterwards and see what's going on with that. So, all right. But I went through the list of questions here, unless anybody else has any. And feel free to unmute yourself as well if you have anything there that you want to share. Would love any feedback too. If you have any feedback for us, is this something you think you would be interested in implementing? We'd be happy to help you do that if you are, or if you have further questions, let us know.
Looks like Carrie had one more question on statuses. So Carrie, you can't, on approvals, you can't get more granular on status. It's any status that's in this pending behavior will trigger approvals to be created. And then likewise, if you change from any one of these statuses, the two pending ones, to something else, then the approvals will be suppressed and, you know, hidden from the approver. So, but you couldn't say, oh, I want AV approval only if it's in the request status. Now you're one of the folks that might have the closer to the 20 number of statuses, as I recall, looking at your data. So you had a lot of different things in there. So anybody have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself.
Nancy's got one.
Yeah, Nancy's wondering if she can implement it if they are not taking requests right now. So could, like, say you're just an event planner and you want to implement this, could that be done?
Yes. So what you would need to do, Nancy, is you're going to need to create a status that, and you could call it request, and you need to put it in this pending behavior. Okay. So that's the first thing you'd need to do. You'd need to create your approvals that you want. And then when you add a new event, because you're going to use this tool right here. So let me just kind of go through this really quickly to show you where you're going to be here. Then you pick your date. And on this screen, very subtle, but you need to change the status to that new status you just created called request. And now that would trigger the approval process on this event because it's in the request status. So that's how you would kind of set it up manually at that point. So. Okay.
And I just put that link to the other Mazévo Connect on approvals in there for everybody. And I'll send that out too if you're watching this on the recording, so you get that as well. All right.
And don't forget, if you want us to help you set this up or want to talk deeper, go into more detail on anything, please feel free to just reach out to us, at support or any of us, and pick our brains, and we can help you get this set up or fine tune it if you're already using it. And then certainly, if there's any feedback like, oh, I want to put notes on and stuff like that, we'd love to hear things like that as well. So.
Brian, I was also going to say Wendy did that video on the overview of approvals as well. So.
Yes, thank you for the reminder. Yes,
yeah.
We have a short video as well that's kind of condensed down to just a few minutes that goes through the approval process and how to set up approvals. A couple of great videos that Wendy did there. So those are on our resource page on our website. I'll see if I can dig up those links here at some point. I'll send those out as well. Right. Well, we're getting close to our time, and it seems like the questions are winding down. Wanted to mention next month's Mazévo Connect. I'll have that up here probably in another week or two. The next one's going to be on operations, how to use Mazévo's operation features and functions specifically from the mobile device and things. And what we're really doing there is looking for a customer that would like to share their experience with their operations folks and how they have used it in their own operations, how they let their operations folks pull up things on their phone and stuff like that. So if your operation is doing that, you by no means have to be an expert and think that you know everything about how operations works. This is going to be more about how you use it today in your operation. And if you'd like to share that, we'd really love to. I'd love to talk to you and let you know what's involved, because we're looking for a volunteer that would like to share their experience. So if you're interested in that, send me an email and I would be happy to talk to you more and get you some more details on how that works. But anyways, yeah, so I think that's it. Go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you everyone for joining. Appreciate it.
Thank you.